I can tell you what, like on all complicated questions, you can kind of start by eliminating things. What art's not, do you know? Art's not, right, I don't know what art's not, but what it is, I don't know. I don't know. When I was 16 years old, I went to a girls' boarding school, okay? And I had lived in northern Minnesota, a little mining community. And I went from there to a suburb of Chicago. And I met a woman who taught history, and her name was Mrs. Moses. I've told this story before, but it's okay. And Mrs. Moses said, "I know what's wrong with you." What's wrong with me? And she said, "Yes, you're an artist. And you're not alone, and there's a whole tribe of you." And that was a revelation, that what I wanted to do was to make things, to make the world clear to me, was actually something that was ongoing. I wasn't inventing this. I was finding my way to it. There was a great quote on the internet yesterday about Neruda, who's saying that poetry came to him, that poetry had found him one day. And I thought, well, what a funny, wonderful way of saying that. But when she told me that there was a tribe of people that did it, it was as if painting had found me. I had a notion that I wanted to make things, but that there was a whole world about doing this. I think it's a calling. That sounds so romantic, but I really think it is a calling. Because who would choose to live like this? Do you know? How many cocktails parties have you been to? What do you do? I paint. Oh, do you sell? And then like all the yes, yes, of course. Do you show? And then all the complicated things that go by, and you say yes. It's like, who asks? Like, do you go up to a lawyer and say, "Can I see your bank account?" Do you have a case? I mean, it's just such a funny reaction people have to what we're doing, as if we are adults and we've decided to stay childish, or and it feels anything but that, because we have to invent the whole goddamn thing, right? The rules, the schedule, the whole thing we invent, and then we have to say that's wrong. And redo it. It's astonishing that we can do it. If you're a doctor, you cut out the appendix, appendix or what? Appendix, and the guy dies, or the guy. It's straightforward. But in painting, it's not straightforward. And I think to be a painter, to be an artist, is unbelievably courageous. Like when I was a youngster, it didn't matter what I did. I just had to do it and kind of build, right? So that you invest time and into an activity, and it becomes valuable to you, right? And then in it becoming valuable, you start to search for how you can make it even richer, like a crow bringing shiny things to its nest. So you're always, once you care about it, once you've invested in it, once you care about it, once you value it, you're going to want to deepen it. And I'm a full adult. I'm, full grown, full adult, and the last thing I want to do is do childish things and repetitive things in my studio. I want the sense of myself being a mature and experienced and curious art maker who's got a lot to tell you, to always be unfolding. So the challenge is to keep myself excited, to keep myself alert and interested. And I have every reason in the world to do that. These are aqua tints, and these are made concurrent with the paintings that I'm working on. So they're always, it's kind of a back and forth conversation that the paintings and the prints are having and informing each other. These are just some of the prints. Do you know, I got sick and I couldn't paint. And so I had I started doing dry points and, just scratching onto actually sheets of plastic. And it was like, oh, this is good. And then I got a book on non-toxic printmaking. So I got a, Barbie and Ken little press, and I got an air gun for the aqua tint because I couldn't do the resin. So I just sort of put together a kit so that I could begin to make these. I did a course, and I walked into this room with 30 kids, and they were like tree frogs. They had these big eyes and like, what have you got for us? And they're like 18, 19, and they want to be artists. And you walk in, you go, whoa, back off. So we did these monoprints, and I would stand next to them when they took it off the press. And the thing that I realized that I had that they needed was I can see. Do you know? It took me a million years to be able to see. So all I really needed to do was to tell them when they pulled out their print what I saw. And it was like a revelation because they don't see yet. They're so anxious and they're so, it's like the caterpillar story. You're like, which foot do you start with? And then the caterpillar falls down because he doesn't know what he's doing. They don't know how to see. They don't know how to look. So that was a very exciting thing, that what I could bring to that situation is I can tell you what I see because I've been doing that for a long, long time. Every day is like an attack. Like a general, you're planning strategies. And that's only as the painting goes on. Because in the beginning, you're best friends with the painting. Oh, you like that? I love that. You like gum, I like gum. You agree on everything. And then in a painting, like in some like bad relationships or just relationships, what do you mean you don't like spaghetti, right? And there's the rub. Do you know? So as you go on with the painting, the rubs become fiercer. And then I remember Mel Bachner said to me one day, he said, who's in charge here? You or the painting? And it was like this revelation to me that I could be in charge. It never occurred to me that I could be in charge. So the mornings are spent kind of planning, gathering a strategy. The most important part of constructing a painting is the space. And I think that, historically where change and innovation has come into art is through the space. And if you think of Giotto, if you think of, even the cave paintings, for God's sake. And then you kind of go forward and you have Picasso and you have Mademoiselle d'Avignon, and he literally takes conventional space and he rips it. He absolutely, what's the word for it? Shears the space, and it will never be the same again. When you see that painting at MoMA, it's like shocking. You think, what the hell was he doing? But you can just feel the world, like the axis of the world and how painting is constructed, just shift, and it will never go back, and it will never be the same again. And so every time I think about painting, like I think about Velázquez, I think about and I look at their space, and I think, my God, that's where it's really shifting. I was at Washington D.C. and I was looking at a David and an Ang. Okay, and there's a lineage there, and there's and you think the David next to the Ang looks almost antique. looks like a throwback, because there's something that Aang did that understood, that's like the precursor to what's going to happen, that's starting to happen, and that David is clueless about, and it just kind of shifts the whole thing, and the Aang is 10 times more exciting. I love David, I love it, but there was that space thing making the world different. So when I'm making paintings, I think it's very important, the space. There are lots of languages to understanding the world, okay? There's a verbal language, there's music, I'm tone deaf, right? That's not a language that has much resonance. And then there are people that are very visual. And I think that you're born predisposed to kind of translating the world in some particular language, okay? Words, like stringing words together to make sense is not how I see the world. I see the world like in like a gestalt. Do you know what I mean? Like, bang, there's the thing. And then I start to the hierarchy of what's more important and what's less important. It's almost like orchestrating a composition, right? You just start, this is the thing that's more important, and this is playing a subservient role. But that's very visual, and it happens at that level. And then the meaning comes to me visually, okay? And I know people who visuals mean it means nothing unless you can tell them, unless they can construct the idea verbally. It doesn't exist in the world. They just, this isn't, this world is not real to them. It's got to be an idea. I said this before, I feel like Missouri, the show me state. I have to see it, I have to feel it, I have to, it has to be tangible for me to truly believe it. So that's why I make art, to understand the world. And then I want to tell you, I want you to understand how it is, because I'm a human being and I want to connect. I mean, that's what we want to do, because it's really horrible not feeling connected. So I make things in the hope that I can replicate a sensation or a moment, and you and I can come together and connect.